Hello everybody, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about some news that came out recently that many of you who follow me on Twitter are already quite aware of, and I have spoken about at length over there, but I wanted to do a video talking about it as well. And that is the remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I know this is the collection of both games, but whatever, it's what I have. It was announced during a PlayStation live stream. I'm not sure exactly what it was called, but they were announcing a bunch of games and showing off some upcoming games that had already been announced and different things like that. And it was revealed in a very brief, minute-long little teaser that Sony Interactive Entertainment, Lucasfilm Games, and Aspyr are all collaborating to make a Knights of the Old Republic remake, which has me very excited. You guys probably know Knights of the Old Republic is arguably my favorite game of all time. It's my favorite piece of Star Wars pretty much ever. I mean, it's hard to really say because, I love Empire Strikes Back, I love the Darth Bane trilogy, I love Knights of the Old Republic. Those are the three top things for me. But Knights of the Old Republic just holds such a special place in my heart that I can't not say it's my favorite. So it means a lot to me, and to see that it is getting remade and we'll be able to experience this story and these characters again, updated to modern graphics and gameplay and all that kind of stuff, has me very excited. So I thought I would do a little video and talk a little bit about what I want to see from this remake, kind of go over a bunch of things, kind of what my ideal vision for it would be. So first things first, I think many people feel the same way about this. I do not want them to drastically change the story or the characters. I'm fine with minor adjustments, minor changes here and there, for different reasons that I might get into a little bit later. But the big plot points and the vast majority of everything I want to remain the same. I want the big twist in the game to remain the same, which I'm not going to spoil because I don't want to spoil the game for anyone who hasn't played it before if this remake's going to be your first time playing it, or if it has piqued your interest and you want to go play the first game. I'm gonna try not to spoil things, and I would encourage you to go in blind if you can. But all that stuff, the story, the characters, everything, minor changes, minor tweaks I'm okay with, but I think the vast majority should be basically the same. However, some changes I would be fine with would come with new content. Now, Knights of the Old Republic I think is great content-wise on its own. I think there's plenty to do, there is plenty to experience, lots of side quests, lots of main story missions, all that kind of thing. However, I would absolutely not be opposed to adding more side content and things like that. I don't really want them to mess with the main story too much. I mean, maybe flesh out some of the missions a little bit, do a little bit more with them, but don't necessarily add in a new planet or something, for example, to bring the story to. Although that one I'm a little flexible on, which I'll get to in a minute, but I do really want them to add some new content, because the way I see it, as great as it would be to just play Knights of the Old Republic again with modern graphics and more fluid gameplay and all that, kind of updating it to modern standards, as great as it would be to just get that, at the same time I also feel like there's not too much of a point to it of doing a full remake rather than a remaster that may not be up to modern standards, but it would still be better. I don't really see the point of doing a full remake unless you're going to add something new to the experience. So I really want them to add some new side quests or stuff like that. Now, a minute ago I talked about adding new planets and not really wanting them to do that. However, there is an exception to that I would be willing to make, and that is restoring cut content from the original game. Knights of the Old Republic 2 is mainly the game in the series when people talk about cut content, and all that kind of thing. That's usually where they go with it, because Knights of the Old Republic 2 has very clearly had a lot of content cut, and people have dedicated a lot of time and energy to making mods to restore that cut content, which makes the game a lot better, I think. And I think if you're going to play KOTOR 2, the restored content mods are essential. However, there was also stuff cut from the first game, which, I mean, they can use their judgment as to what should be brought back, what shouldn't, what adds something really meaningful to the experience and what doesn't. As far as the planet is concerned, there was actually an additional planet that was planned to be in the original game called Slaheron, which was kind of a lava planet type of thing, which, do I necessarily want to see it added back? I don't know. I mean, it would basically be creating a whole huge piece of the plot from scratch, basically, which on one hand would be nice to see them add such a sizable chunk of new content, but on the other hand, I think what the original story has going for it works really well just on its own. However, if they were to restore Slaheron to the story, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. And of course, one of the biggest things people want changed, aside from like the graphics being updated and all that, is the gameplay, and especially the combat. The combat in the original game I'm perfectly fine with, however, it is a little bit clunky, and it does make it difficult for people who are playing it for the first time nowadays to actually get into the game. So I think that the combat is definitely going to need an upgrade. Now, whether they decide to keep the turn-based type combat system from the original and just update it and bring it up to modern standards, or include a completely different new combat system, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about it. I just want it to feel better and less clunky. I haven't personally played it, but I have heard that the Final Fantasy VII Remake has the option to both play a different, like, more modern combat system or the original turn-based system. So maybe they could work something like that in here. You could choose your preference. If you're, you know, an OG fan who loves the original combat system and you just do not want to see that changed, you can do that. Or if you're someone who's used to more action-based combat or something like that, you can also have that. I think that would be really the ideal thing for them to do. I would also love to see more emphasis on character customization, because KOTOR is an RPG, and RPGs, especially nowadays, allow for pretty deep character customization a lot of time. You look at something like Mass Effect, which was developed by BioWare, who also developed Knights of the Old Republic, and that game has a fairly in-depth character customization system as far as like the face and different things, or even the armor you're wearing. You can change the paint of it or whatever. I think that would be great to include in a KOTOR remake, because the original game just gave you some different heads to choose from, maybe 10 heads per gender or something like that. It was nice to have that element of choice, but it wasn't exactly the best character customization system. So I would really like them to update that and include, you know, an actual like full character customization system in the game. The thing I hope to see that has already been sort of confirmed, but we don't know to what extent, is having the original voice actors come back. Now, some of them won't be able to do that at all because they have sadly passed since the original game came out. Like, for example, the voice actor for Candace Ordo passed away a few years ago, so they would have to absolutely find someone new for that. But I think that I would hope that any voice actors who are able and willing would come back to this remake and reprise their roles again. We already know Jennifer Hale is back as Bastila Shan. She was in the teaser trailer, she did the voiceover, so we know she's back, but they have not confirmed if anyone else is coming back, and if so, who. So I really hope that we get at least some more of the original voice actors, if not as many as we possibly can. Speaking of voice acting, one thing that I've seen talked about a little bit that I kind of am curious about is having a voice protagonist, which is something that the original games did not do. You basically just choose your dialogue options and it goes straight to whatever NPC you're talking to responding. You do not have your own voiced character. Compared to something like, again, Mass Effect, which BioWare did after Knights of the Old Republic a few years later, and that does have a voice protagonist for both a male and female character. And so, do I want to see a voice protagonist in Knights of the Old Republic? I'm leaning towards yes. I really could go either way on it. On one hand, I think it kind of gave KOTOR more of its own sort of identity because, compared to later BioWare games, it didn't have a voice protagonist. And as far as the story goes, I think it maybe makes a little bit more sense to not have a voice protagonist, which again, I'm not going to get too much into the spoiler stuff, but I think it makes a little bit more sense. But on the other hand, it would make it a little bit more natural, a little bit maybe more cinematic in some ways. There's definitely advantages and disadvantages to both. Personally, if I had to pick one, I would say give us a voice protagonist, but if they choose not to, I'm not going to be real upset about it or anything. Another thing I'd like to see from the remake is expanded worlds. Now, KOTOR already has a number of different worlds you can go to that are all pretty decent size, but I think, especially considering a lot of modern games have very big, expansive open worlds, and not that Knights of the Old Republic needs to have massive open worlds, but I think to at least meet that modern standard, it would be good to at least expand them, put a little more content in them, give us a little bit more to explore. I also think things like the relationships and the romance options and whatnot should be expanded on as well. The romance in the original Knights of the Old Republic, I think, is okay, but kind of lacking. I don't think it's particularly well written, and it just doesn't really feel natural to me. Give us more romance options and different things, which I know there was only a handful of characters in the original that you could have a romance relationship with, but I wouldn't mind them expanding that to other characters. I don't know if there's really a whole lot of characters that would really fit, because two of your companions are droids. One of them is a teenager, and the other ones I feel like wouldn't quite fit, but maybe just expand it a little bit. Maybe, for example, Bastila, have her be able to be romanced whether you play a male or a female, for example. Different things like that, just to give the player more options. And I know some people are opposed to that kind of thing because they feel it changes the characters too much, but I don't really mind it. I think if it gives the player some more options, then I'm all for it. Now, one of the big questions that people have been asking about this remake is whether or not it's going to be canon or if it's going to remain a part of the Legends EU timeline. As far as what I think of that, I think if they're doing a straight, retelling of the original story, in that case, I feel like it should remain in the expanded universe, because there's just a bunch of things, relatively small things, but still parts of the lore that I feel like wouldn't really fit if you tried to just take the Knights of the Old Republic story and setting and just plop it into the Disney canon. So I feel like it should remain as a legend story. However, they could tweak some things here and there to make it fit a little bit better, and I think that would be fine. However, personally, I have my own ways that I would like to see certain things about this game brought into canon. Again, not going to go into spoilers, but there's certain things that this game does that I personally would like to see in canon again, but I would like to see them done differently. And so for that reason, also, I would like it to stay Legends. So in general, for me, I think the game should stay a part of the Legends timeline, as great as it would be to get it canonized. There's just a bunch of things that, to me, would make it a little bit worse if it were in the canon timeline, but if they decide to make it canon, then that's also honestly fine with me. So that's pretty much all I've got for you in this video. I just wanted to get on here and give a little bit of my thoughts on this remake news and talk a little bit about what I want to see from it. If you guys have any suggestions for other videos in general or other videos about this remake that you'd like to see me talk about, because, you know, Knights of the Old Republic is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and there's a lot to talk about with both the original game and a potential remake. So if you have any ideas for things you want me to talk about in relation to that, then do let me know in the comments. But anyways, that's pretty much all I've got for you today, so I'll see you guys next time.